Okay, let's dive into one of the most explosive ideas in all of literature and philosophy. We're going to unpack a question that has haunted thinkers for over a century, and we're going to let the characters of the great Russian novelist Fyodor Dostoevsky be our guides.
This famous phrase, often tied to Dostoevsky, isn't just a clever line. It's a bomb. It asks this really haunting question about what our morality is even built on. I mean, if there's no divine judge, no ultimate cosmic rulebook, what really stops us from doing anything we want?
And this is where it gets so fascinating. In his novels, Dostoevsky didn't just state the problem, he had his characters live it out. He pushed this idea to its absolute breaking point, creating these powerful arguments and counter-arguments that we're going to walk through right now.
All right, so first up, let's explore the most extreme, the most kind of chilling answer to this question. This is the path of pure nihilism, the idea that humanity shouldn't just replace God, but actually become God. Kyrill isn't some minor character. He's basically a thought experiment brought to terrifying life. He represents this intense struggle of a man who fully accepts the logic. If there is no God, then man himself has to take his place. He has to assert his own divinity.
What's so wild here is breaking down his ice-cold logic. For Kyrill, becoming God wasn't about power or glory or anything like that. It was about conquering the ultimate human fear, death. If he could consciously, willfully end his own life, not because he's sad, but as an act of pure freedom, he believed he would prove his will was supreme. He would become the man-God.
But Dostoevsky shows this path for what he believes it is, a total dead end. Kyrillov's final act isn't glorious or liberating at all. It's just dark, bizarre, and ultimately tragic. His attempt to become a man-god turns into this horrifying caricature that ends in self-destruction, not salvation.
But Dostoevsky is just getting started. He follows this up with an even more sophisticated, even more powerful challenge to faith, and this time it comes through the brilliant and tormented character of Ivan Karamazov.
Now, Ivan's argument is absolutely devastating because he doesn't just say, God doesn't exist. He says, okay, for the sake of argument, let's say he does. His rebellion is a moral one. Using what he calls his Euclidean, his simple earthly logic, he just cannot accept a world where innocent children are tortured, no matter what kind of divine harmony is promised later on.
He famously declares that if the price of admission to a perfect heaven is the suffering of just one little kid, he would respectfully return his ticket. The cost is just too high. The moral math doesn't work.
So his devout brother Alyosha comes back with the ultimate Christian counter-argument. What about the one figure who can forgive everything because he himself suffered innocently for everyone? But Ivan, he was ready for that. His answer is a story, a poem he wrote, called The Grand Inquisitor.
And this really gets to the core of the whole thing. In Ivan's story, Christ returns to Earth, gets arrested, and the Grand Inquisitor tells him flat out that humanity is too weak, too pathetic for the terrible gift of freedom he gave them. People, he argues, will always trade that terrifying freedom for security, for food, for someone to just tell them what to do.
So, here's the crucial point, the big twist. The Inquisitor accuses Christ himself of being the cause of evil. And why? Because he totally misjudged human nature and gave us a gift, free will, that we simply weren't strong enough to handle. Our freedom, he says, is the source of all our pain.
So after presenting these two massive arguments against a divine moral order, you've got the dead end of the man-god and this paradox of freedom, Dostoevsky finally offers his own radical solution. And it's not a logical proof, it's a completely different way of being in the world.
The key to understanding Dostoevsky's vision is this concept, kenosis. It's a powerful idea that means self-emptying. It's not about forcing your will on the world, but about completely annihilating your own ego out of a boundless, selfless empathy for other people.
And we see this ideal in characters who might seem weak or passive to the outside world, but they possess this incredible spiritual strength. They find a totally different kind of freedom, not by rebelling against God, but through an absolute, unconditional love for all of creation. This table just lays it out so clearly. You have these two completely opposite poles in Dostoevsky's universe. On one side, there's Kyrill, where freedom is all about the ultimate assertion of the self, of the I. And on the other side, you have characters like Sonia, where true freedom is found in the complete annihilation of the self for the good of others.
And this wasn't just stuff he put in his novels. Dostoevsky himself wrote in his journal that this act of selfless self-emptying isn't a loss. He actually saw it as the highest form of personal growth and the only real path to happiness.
Okay, so this brings the whole dilemma right into the 21st century. It forces us to ask a very direct and maybe kind of uncomfortable question. Why does any of this matter to us today, living in a largely secular world? Well, the sociologist Christian Smith, in his book Atheist Overreach, basically picks up this Dostoevskian question. He argues that while sure, an atheistic worldview can definitely justify a certain kind of morality, it has some very real limits.
And here's the distinction he makes. He says a naturalistic worldview can easily support what he calls a modest morality. You know, a sort of, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours ethos that helps society run smoothly. But where it struggles, he argues, is in justifying a universal, expansive obligation to all people everywhere, especially the ones we'll never meet.
This is the classic free rider problem, but with a moral twist. I mean, if morality is just a social contract we all made up for our own convenience, what's the truly compelling, rational reason for any of us to follow it when it's not in our personal self-interest, especially when we know we can get away with breaking it? And this dilemma, the one Dostoevsky explored so deeply over 150 years ago, leaves us with a profound and really unsettling question for our own time. This question really leaves us wondering, are the values we hold most dear, things like universal human rights, selfless compassion, the inherent dignity of every single person, are they just a kind of borrowed capital? Are they lingering ideas from a religious framework that many of us have now rejected? Dostoevsky's dilemma, in the end, is our own. And the question remains, without God, is everything permitted? Or have we actually found a new foundation strong enough to hold up our morality?